In 1994, Ford's special vehicle team built the most serious Mustang Cobra yet, 240 horsepower of GT40-headed 5.0 Fury. But in the same year, a California hot rodder named Steve Saleen looked at that Cobra and thought, "That's cute. Now watch this." This is the story of the Saleen S351, the Mustang with roughly 130 more horsepower than Ford's own SVT Cobra, built by a guy who figured out what Detroit wouldn't give you, and then sold it to you anyway. While Ford played it safe with the 5.0, Saleen dropped a 351 cubic inch Windsor V8 into the Mustang, the engine Ford primarily reserved for trucks and rare specialty builds. The result? 371 horsepower, 422 pound-feet of torque, and the most powerful naturally aspirated Mustang-based car you could actually buy in 1994. This is Car Chronicles, where we celebrate the hot rodders who build what Detroit won't. Buckle up. Let me paint you a picture. It's 1994. The new SN95 Mustang had just launched, replacing the legendary Fox body after 15 years. While the chassis was an evolution of the Fox platform, known as the Fox 4, the body, interior, and suspension geometry were all new for '94. Ford's engineers know this platform inside and out. They've built Cobras, Saleens, Rouge editions. They understand exactly what this chassis can handle. And yet, despite having a bulletproof pushrod 5.0, despite having the GT40 heads that actually worked, despite knowing the new SN95 could handle more power, Ford's most powerful offering was the SVT Cobra with 240 horsepower. 240. In 1994, the same year the Dodge Viper was making 400 horsepower, the Corvette ZR1 was pushing 375, and even the Camaro Z28 had 275. Ford's Halo Mustang? 240. Enter Steve Saleen, former race car driver, Mustang obsessive, and the guy who looked at Ford's conservative engineering choices and said, "Hold my blueprints." Saleen had been modifying Mustangs since 1984, but the S351 was his magnum opus, his middle finger to corporate conservatism, his answer to the question, what if we actually built the Mustang enthusiasts wanted? The formula was brilliantly simple. Take the new SN95 Mustang, rip out the 240 horsepower 5.0, install Ford's own 351 Windsor V8, 5.8 liters of cast-iron American Fury that Ford reserved for F-Series trucks and the occasional specialty build. Add Saleen's suspension magic, aero package, and interior upgrades. Bolt on a Tremec 5-speed manual transmission that could handle the torque. Result, 371 horsepower. 371. Now let's talk about what that meant compared to Ford's own SVT Cobra. The Cobra, 240 horses, 285 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in the low 6-second range. The Saleen S351, 371 horses, 422 pound-feet, and quarter-mile times in the 13s, specifically 13.9 seconds according to Motor Trend's testing. That's roughly 130 more horsepower. 130 from a modified Mustang built by a small California shop. Here's the beautiful irony. Ford had this engine. The 351 Windsor was sitting in Ford's parts bin, getting bolted into F-150 trucks every single day. Ford's engineers knew it would fit in the Mustang, because Saleen proved it would fit in the Mustang. But Ford's marketing department looked at the Cobra's 240 horsepower and thought, yeah, that's probably enough. Plot twist, it wasn't. The S351 wasn't just an engine swap. Saleen completely re-engineered the Mustang to handle the extra power. Upgraded suspension with Saleen-specific dampers and springs. Larger multi-piston performance brakes to stop the now significantly faster Mustang. Wider wheels and stickier tires to put 422 pound-feet to the ground. The aero package included a functional front splitter and rear spoiler designed for high-speed stability, not just decoration. The interior got Saleen's signature leather treatment, custom gauges, and a numbered plaque reminding you this wasn't a regular Mustang. Now let's talk money, because this is where it gets interesting. A 1994 SVT Cobra started around $21,000. The Saleen S351? Approximately $27,750 base. That's roughly $6,700 more for 130 extra horsepower. Math that out, you're paying about $51 per additional horse. That's cheaper than most aftermarket supercharger kits that add similar power. Let that marinate for a second. Saleen built around 300 total S351 units across multiple model years from 1994 through 1999. Compare that to the 1994 Cobra's production of over 5,000 coupes alone. The Saleen was rare. This wasn't mass production. This was boutique, hot rodding at its finest. Each car hand-built, each engine hand-assembled, each one numbered and documented. Period road tests described the S351's power delivery as locomotive-like. That massive 422 pound-feet of torque hitting at low RPM meant the Saleen pulled like a freight train from basically idle. Where the Cobra's 5.0 loved to rev, the Saleen's 351 shoved. Put your foot down at 2,000 RPM and the rear tires would light up if you weren't careful. Careful throttle modulation wasn't optional. It was mandatory. Now here's where we give the SVT Cobra its due respect, because the Cobra wasn't a bad car. Ford's engineers had dialed in the new SN95 chassis beautifully for the Cobra. It handled brilliantly, the brakes were excellent for the era, and that 5.0 was bulletproof reliable. The Saleen took that solid foundation and turned everything up to 11. Stiffer suspension meant sharper turn-in, but a harsher ride. More power meant more drama, but also more responsibility. Bigger brakes meant better stopping, but higher maintenance costs. In the street, the S351 could embarrass cars costing twice as much. Corvettes got nervous. Vipers respected it. Even the occasional Ferrari owner raised an eyebrow when a modified Mustang disappeared into the distance. But the Saleen wasn't trying to replace the Cobra. It was showing what was possible when you removed corporate constraints and let an enthusiast engineer the Mustang they actually wanted. Ford noticed. Oh, they noticed. In 1995, Ford built the SVT Cobra R, a stripped-out track-special Mustang with a 351 Windsor making 300 horsepower. Only 250 units, all crystal white, priced at $35,499. Ford could build a 351 Mustang. They just made you pay a premium and remove the back seat, air conditioning, and radio to get one. Saleen gave you the 351 with the creature comforts, for less money. Think about that for a moment. The S351 represented something bigger than just horsepower numbers. It was proof that small specialty builders could out-engineer the big manufacturers when given the freedom to ignore corporate politics. Steve Saleen didn't have shareholder meetings. He didn't have marketing departments worried about cannibalizing other product lines. He had a vision. Build the fastest, naturally aspirated Mustang possible using Ford's own parts. Mission accomplished. The naturally aspirated S351 that we're talking about ran from 1994 to 95. But Saleen wasn't done. In 1996, he added a Vortex supercharger to the 351, bumping power to 495 horsepower. But that's a story for another time, because the naturally aspirated version proved the point on its own. You didn't need forced induction to embarrass the competition. You just needed the right displacement and the guts to build what Detroit wouldn't. Now let's address the elephant in the room: reliability. The 351 Windsor was a truck engine. It was designed to haul lumber and tow trailers at low RPM for hundreds of thousands of miles. Saleen took that industrial-grade bottom end and made it breathe better with performance heads and intake. The result was an engine that was actually more durable than you'd expect from a 371 horsepower Mustang. Owners reported these engines lasting well into six-figure mileage with basic maintenance. Owning an S351 meant joining an exclusive club. Saleen owners and enthusiast club members documented every car, every modification, every detail. These weren't just cars. They were collectibles from day one. Insurance was higher than a regular Mustang. Parts were more expensive because you needed Saleen-specific components. But you also had a Mustang that could run with Corvettes and cost half as much. Motor Trend got their hands on an S351 and ran it down the quarter mile, 13.9 seconds. That's identical to the Corvette LT1 from the same year, the car with 58 fewer horsepower but also 500 pounds less weight. The Saleen proved that with enough torque, you could overcome physics. 422 pound-feet will do that. Still with me? Good. Because we're about to talk about what this all meant. The Saleen S351 represented the first monster of the SN95 era. It was Steve Saleen saying hello to the new chassis. and saying it with 371 horsepower. Ford's SVT team learned from Saleen. The boutique builders proved there was demand for more power, more performance, more drama. And eventually, Ford listened. Today, a clean S351 commands serious money in the collector market. We're talking $30,000 to $50,000 for low-mileage examples, more than they cost new after adjusting for inflation. Why? Because there were only about 300 built. Because they're fast. And because they represent a moment in time when a hot rodder from California showed Detroit how it was done. Put this in perspective. The 2024 Mustang GT makes 480 horsepower. 30 years later, Ford finally put that kind of power in a base Mustang GT. Saleen was giving you 371 in 1994. He was 3 decades ahead of Ford's mainstream offerings. The SVT Cobra wasn't the enemy here. Ford's engineers built a brilliant sports car within the constraints they were given. Conservative engine choice? Sure. But the chassis, brakes, and suspension were dialed in perfectly. Saleen just asked, what if we removed those constraints? The S351 proved several things simultaneously. The new SN95 Mustang chassis could handle significantly more power than Ford was giving it. The 351 Windsor was a better street engine choice than the high-revving 5.0 for torque-hungry enthusiasts. And small specialty builders could deliver what big manufacturers wouldn't, when they had the vision and engineering chops to pull it off. Steve Saleen wasn't the first tuner to modify Mustangs, but he might have been the best at showing Detroit what they were missing. He didn't just bolt on parts. He re-engineered the entire package to work cohesively. Suspension matched the power. Brakes matched the speed. Interior matched the price. The S351 wasn't a hack job. It was thoughtful performance engineering. For enthusiasts in 1994 who wanted a serious Mustang, the S351 was the answer. Not supercharged, not turbocharged, just more motor. The old-school American way of making power. Cubic inches, torque, a 5-speed manual. That's how you built a proper muscle car. Saleen remembered that when everyone else was chasing technology. One last time, the numbers. SVT Cobra, 240 horsepower, $21,000 base. Saleen S351, 371 horsepower, approximately $27,750 base. 130 more horses for roughly $6,700 more dollars. Do the math. Draw your own conclusions. The Fox body era ended in 1993, but Steve Saleen's vision didn't. He kept building high-performance Mustangs on the new SN95 platform, including that supercharged version we mentioned earlier. 495 horsepower. Insanity. But that story, that's for another episode. The 1994 Saleen S351 wasn't just a modified Mustang. It was a manifesto. A statement that said, corporate conservatism doesn't define what's possible, only what's probable. Steve Saleen looked at Ford's 240 horsepower Cobra and thought, I can do better. And with Ford's own 351 Windsor engine, he proved it. 371 horsepower, 422 pound-feet. The Mustang Ford should have built, but didn't. So Steve Saleen built it for them. This is Car Chronicles, where we celebrate the hot rodders who build what Detroit won't. If you want more stories about specialty builders embarrassing the big manufacturers, hit that subscribe button. We've got Roush, we've got Hennessy, we've got Lingenfelter, all the tuners who looked at horsepower limits and said, watch this. Drop a comment. Would you have paid the extra $6,700 for 130 more horses? Or was the SVT Cobra the smarter buy? Next time. We're diving into Ford's answer to the boutique builders, the SVT program that tried to out-Saleen Saleen. You won't want to miss it.